Well, welcome to this. This is a momentous LinkedIn Live, not just because it's number 123 that I've done, 123rd, but because about 11 days ago now, Emma and I sold the business. We sold AM Bid, an ultimate tender coach, and we sold it to the gentleman who's with me, joining me in the studio here, Brendan Fatchett, who's the Group Chief Executive Officer of Bidding Limited. So I'm delighted to welcome Brendan. Brendan's my new boss for the next year because I'm staying on for a year to help in the transition. So welcome, Brendan. I think everybody wants to know a bit about you and a bit about your career to date, please.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. And firstly, just let me say, we're delighted to have you on board. I'm not sure it's fair on you that you're being managed by me, Andrew, for the next year, but there are upsides and downsides to everything. So my background is, I'd say, genuinely speaking, an entrepreneur. I have been working in various market spaces over the last decade. Very luckily, we've been able to create businesses that over time have grown and attracted interest. And my most recent exit was a company called 365 Response, which was a health-orientated digital business. And we sold that back in February 2022. So, that was 7 years of hard labor there, I think, and something that we were very proud of at the end to pass on to new owners. Alongside that, I've been involved on the board and an investor in various other businesses that have ended up at exit. So there's been 4 other businesses that I've worked with that have also ended up in exit as well. So I've been quite busy over the last 3 to 4 years. And of course, we also have Bidding Limited. And Bidding Limited is a business that I've been involved with for quite some time, originally as chair. And then last year, I took the majority shareholding in the business. And since then, we've really been focusing on how we grow the business and do different things.
Okay, so why did you decide, Brendan, to make us an offer for AM Bid?
So there's a process. It's not a science, but there is a process towards acquisitions. We look at and think about what is it that we need as a group that will make us stronger. And I think, Andrew, you'll be aware that we had a business called HealthBid, which is continuing to trade. And HealthBid is a very specialist business focused purely on the health market. So we work with a large number of clients in the health market to help them to produce high quality bids. I felt that we could have tried to grow organically in this space, but we really wanted to accelerate our growth and use M&A as a tool to do that. So we started to look at the marketplace, and we spoke to a lot of organizations, probably over a period of 6 to 9 months. And during that period, it became clear there were only a very small number of those businesses that were genuinely of interest to us. And obviously, Andrew, we met and had a conversation. I think we both agreed we had a very positive first conversation, and that left a really good impression. We liked the look of the business. We liked the fact that you delivered year-on-year growth in every year. That was something that we were looking for in terms of a tick in the box effectively. We also liked the fact that you were across many, many more markets than we are, and you had a lovely set of continual repeat customers as well. So there was a number of things that started to come together as we were making our decision-making processes in terms of where should we go and what should we acquire. And ultimately as well, the people. We looked at the consistency of your people and who you had in your business, their experience, their knowledge. And when you put that together with good economics, a good reputation, and excellent outputs, it just felt like a really logical business for us to acquire. So clearly the next steps were trying to persuade you, Andrew, that this was the right time to exit. And we're delighted that we were able to have those conversations, get to where we needed to, and end up where we are today.
Yeah, and you know what? You're pushing at a bit of an open door on the exit front, because I'd started AM Bid in 2014 with the very clear plan that I wanted to sell within 8 to 10 years. And this got sold at just shy of the 9-year mark. But I wasn't going to sell to anybody. You were the fourth company that had come knocking, as it were, the third one to actually make us an offer. But it was very important to me that the alignment, the culture, the fact that you and your people understood bidding was vital for me as well, but also that you valued both our client base and also the people who work for us as well. So yeah, it has been a great experience. Now, what I want to know, Brent, you've done quite a bit of research into the bid consultancy sector as a whole. What had you found out about the bid consultancy sector?
So I think there are a number of things that became apparent to us. Firstly, I think it's a very vibrant sector. There are a lot of suppliers in the market. But what was interesting was that we didn't see a lot that were, in my mind, reaching scale. So they were starting to get beyond $1 million turnover and really showing evidence of continual year-on-year growth. We actually met with some really nice businesses, but they were more lifestyle businesses than they were actual businesses. And I think it's a credit to you, Andrew, that when we looked at your business, we could see not only the work that you've done over that period of time, the 8 years, the fact that you've been able to deliver growth on growth, but it felt like a business. And I say that as a very important part of when you're buying something, you want to make sure that there's a structure and an infrastructure and that the business will last over a period of time. There are others that have started that process of scale in the market. And that is quite interesting for us when you're thinking about, as an investor, so quite dispassionately in some respects, you're looking at the market economics and asking yourself, if we expend X amount of money, will we ultimately be able to get a return on that money? Is there space in the market for that to happen? For that to happen, we need to grow. And as a business, we're investing in our infrastructure, in our sales and marketing, in our operational people consistently to try and make that happen. And the thing that gave us, I think, a great deal of reassurance was that when we looked at the market, we could see that there was a significant number of smaller players, a few larger players, and one or two that probably genuinely reach scale across the whole market. Now, from my perspective, that means that there's opportunity for some professionalization on the sales side. So making the process of interacting with customers easier, making us more visible to customers, and also just being a little bit more on the front foot in terms of being out there and communicating with customers about the services that we provide. So what we were able to find out, I think, is that this is a growing market, a market that is appreciated by customers, and I think ultimately one where there's an opportunity for people to scale up a little bit in terms of size, which clearly is attractive from an investor's perspective.
Okay, now you mentioned earlier about the company HealthBid. Can you tell us a bit more about HealthBid and the, I guess, the market it operates in, what it does for clients, and maybe for any potential clients who are thinking about getting HealthBid to actually help with their bidding?
Absolutely. So HealthBid was set up by myself, Tom and Mike and David, who are part of the original team. And we all come from a healthcare background. And really, the issue was that we'd been working in a large American NASDAQ business for running their UK operations from a sales perspective. And we really noticed that the quality of bidding wasn't the standard that it needed to be consistently successful. And I was lucky enough to be able to bring David in as my bid director. And Tom was working as a general manager for one of the businesses alongside Mike, who was also in David's broader bid team. And we were able to look at the opportunity and say, our success rate transformed by investing in bidding, completely transformed. So from being a relatively unsuccessful business from a sales perspective, particularly with repeat customers, they weren't winning the follow-on contracts. We were able to put in robust processes, bring in some really talented bid writers and completely transform that. And as I talked to people across the healthcare market specifically, we saw that there was this gap. There was either a chronic underinvesting in bidders in bid writing internally. So, having quite junior bid writers write bids that were, extremely complex, extremely long, and using that classic cookie cutter approach towards building your bid. Same bid every time, just change the name of the organization. I think we felt very passionately that with proper processes, robust management, and really detailed sector knowledge that we could provide huge value to clients in the healthcare sector. And that really was the basic ethos of the business. And over the last 5 to 6 years, we've traded extremely positively in that space, grown considerably. We have a big team now, a specialist in healthcare. And I think it's that key thing. We win bids for our clients. Our clients tend to be of varying sizes, but almost always doing quite complicated bids. But the team are built and designed to be able to really support a client at all stages of the process. So we don't always write the whole bid. We might write part of bids. We might just do a pink team at the beginning or a red team at the end. But the key thing that we can guarantee absolutely is if you're a healthcare organization, whether you're a legacy healthcare organization or new to the market, the team has incredible experience and knowledge, which they'll be able to bring to you to assist in making sure that you produce the best possible bid that you can. And we do that in 2 ways, in much the same way I'm sure you've done before. Firstly, we're able to tease out the sales messages effectively because we understand the market across the board. We've done so many different spaces in healthcare now that the guys understand the jargon, understand what commissioners tend to be looking for, and then they're able to transform that with the client into something very persuasive in the bid. So we've been very successful. We work with some really very large customers, but we also work with small customers as well. So if you're a healthcare organization, and if historically you've either struggled to get bids or never done bids before, then you really should come and talk to us, because I think what we can do for you is transform your win rate and turn you into a business that wins more frequently than not. The other thing we do in terms of preparing for bids is help you to understand what you might be missing. And you'll know this as well, Andrew, all too often, if you're entering a new market space, you may not have all the necessary criteria in place to meet the minimum requirements of the bid, and we can help identify what you need to do to get there quicker and make sure that you're not wasting your time bidding for stuff that you couldn't possibly win.
Yeah, great. And of course, in purchasing AM Bid, you've now got this multi-sector bid specialist as well. You know, we've done a fair number of bids in the health service over the years too. And in fact, in the first week under the new ownership, I've been directing a bid for Health Bid along with one of our AM bid writers as well. So rather than you having to sort of turn away business because your own people were, you know, fully utilised, you've now got this additional resource as well. So yeah, I think both companies, or you know, group companies, are clearly going to grow together as well. Now, you also recently acquired another business called ContractsWise. That was in April. What is this business and how does it fit within the Bidding Limited group?
So ContractsWise is a digital solution. It's a lightweight, cloud-based digital solution to help people manage their contracts. So what we noticed, and this comes from my experience, both working at the bid end, but also at the procurement end. I have a background as well, having worked in a number of procurement-based organizations, is that often the procurement team are extremely diligent at collecting the paperwork and the preparation and managing the bid. They then pass that finished bid with the award, the person who won the award, they pass them over the contract to manage. And what we noticed was continuously and over a period of time is that there was a gap. There was a gap in the market because often that contract management phase loses its energy, if you like, over a period of time. So we see a lot of long-term contracts in healthcare in particular, so 5 to 7 years. We were talking to a client about a contract, and they said to us, we don't actually know what the contract is. Not only do we not know what the contract is, but we haven't got the KPIs either, and we're struggling with the payment terms because we don't know if when we're getting paid is accurate. And what happened is that in that organization, the individual who'd done the original work had got safely stored the contract on their computer locally. They then retired and nobody bothered to ask them to pass it on. And over a period of a number of years, so halfway, maybe 3 to 4 years into the contract, suddenly it became apparent that not only was there very little in the way of contract management going on that was tied to the original procurement and the consequences of that procurement, but also the paperwork had disappeared. ContractsWise solves that problem for you by providing you with a repository for those contracts, the ability to manage the performance of those contracts, and also to build up over a period of time performance management set of criteria for those contracts. And it also allows you to give more people access. So going back to that example I just gave you, Andrew, if somebody leaves your organization and you're using ContractsWise, you still have access to all of the documents. You still have access to all of the paperwork that you've kept digitally in terms of the management of that contract. So God forbid, and we know it does happen, that your supplier is not performing. Often we find that the first time that an organization wants to act on that underperformance, they don't necessarily have a clear record of what's happened, when it's happened, how it's happened, and whether or not you've been managing that supplier consistently. ContractsWise solves that problem. So what we provide to you as a client is an easy to use, neat contracts management solution for a very reasonable price on a yearly basis based on users. That is quite sophisticated in the back end from a database management perspective, and allows you to create a network of people managing those contracts in a very proactive way, so that you never miss a procurement deadline. So you're not late and you don't run out of time, and then suddenly you're given an extension to a supplier you don't want to give an extension to. Two, it allows you to keep a detailed record of performance, and we know that changes to procurement rules in the next year will require certainly statutory organisations to be more explicit about performance on bigger contracts. The system will help you do that. And I think that's just a starting point. So it's a really neat bit of kit that we think over the next couple of years that customers that work with us on a bid basis will also appreciate having a system that dovetails into that post-bid phase, both from a contract management perspective, but there's also new ideas that we hope to bring to bear digitally as well over the next 12 to 24 months as well.
Yeah, you know what? That sounds great because I can think of clients previously who've sometimes asked us, "Oh, do you provide any help post-bid? You know, after they've won the contract?" And we traditionally haven't always done that, so it's good to think that there's something else available now. So I'm with Brendan Fatchett today. He's the Group Chief Executive Officer of Leeds-based Bidding Limited. Bidding Limited, as many on this LinkedIn Live will know, purchased AM Bid on the 30th of June, AM Bid and Ultimate Tender Coach. So Brendan, what is your vision for the Bidding Limited Group, and does this include overseas markets?
The answer to the last question is yes. We are interested in working with clients who are overseas, and we are already having conversations with clients about that support. I believe that together we provide a very powerful opportunity for organisations to work with us and help improve their business development, their sales, and ultimately the number of contracts they win. And we don't see a geographical restriction to that. We're not saying to it, we can only do it in the UK. We know, we've already tentatively looked at clients in other countries, and that I think will accelerate over a period of time as we continue to grow and invest in the business. And I think that covers all markets. We continue to talk to clients in healthcare that are multinational or maybe interested in our support in their other regions because they've used us in the UK and seen us transform the way they deliver their bids. And likewise, I think in the broader sectors, we know that there are a lot of people looking outside of the UK at tenders, and we can help support them with that. So definitely there is a play both from supporting UK businesses to tender in other countries, but we're also very interested in thinking about a longer term strategy that maybe sees us move, whether it be to Australia or New Zealand or whether into the US. We think there is an opportunity for a larger consolidated professional bidding organisation to do that type of work. Our broader strategy, and it fits in nicely with our last question around ContractsWise, is that we want to offer a broader set of supporting tools to our customer base. And I think we see that in three very distinct pots. The first pot is our traditional ad hoc bid writing processes that we do with our customer base now. And although I call it ad hoc, for most of our customers, it's not actually ad hoc as such. They're very regular repeat customers that are coming back to us time after time after time. We think that there's a tipping point for them where there's better value for both sides if we move towards a subscription model that we run on an annual basis. And I think, Andrew, we've seen this in AM Bid, and we see this in Health Bid as well. We have a significant amount of revenue coming from subscriptions now in Health Bid, and we'd like to do that also in AM Bid. And we think the market would tolerate that. And we actually just think it's a reflection of those customers that keep coming back to us, really getting a price that reflects a one-off bid when we can offer them better value and more consistency if they move to a subscription model. So I think step 2 for us is very much about supporting our customers into subscription models where they can have certainty of provision. We can support them more closely in terms of their pipeline generation and ensure that there's a growth between both sides over a period of time. What we can see with those subscription customers that we have already is how working closely together over a period of time in a much more formal fashion means that the consistency of the bids continues to rise, the quality continues to rise, and actually the win rates continue to rise. And I think that's the key message for anybody who's watching. If you're thinking about, I'm using, whether it's our bid company or other bid companies, but I'm using them consistently and regularly, you really should be looking at a subscription-based approach, because I think there's better value in those relationships and in the financials if you do it that way. So that's the second plank of the strategy. And the third plank is really about digital transformation. So something I'm very passionate about, it's deeply ingrained in my background in terms of business, is building a cross-section of digital tools that support our client base and help them do things better. Starting with contracts-wise that we've already alluded to. I think we're working hard now to look at the future. Where does AI come into that future, and what can we do to help our customers get there faster?
Okay, I want to just go back to the decision making around buying a business, because you're clearly a serial entrepreneur. What attracts you, Brendan, to buying a business, and conversely, what actually puts you off?
So I think what people probably don't really appreciate unless they've done it before is finding a business is a bit like finding a needle in a haystack. You set yourself some quite clear criteria about things that the business must have. I think I alluded to it earlier that a business must be a business from our perspective. That means it's got to have infrastructure, HR, finance. It's got to be demonstrably well managed. There has to be a consistency on the revenue line. We want to make sure that when we're acquiring a business, that it's healthy, that it's growing, and that the people inside the business reflect what you're told about the business before you meet the people. And clearly here, all of those boxes were ticked. That's actually quite difficult to find. What you tend to find is that the businesses are either suboptimal from a scale perspective. So one thing you don't want to be doing is buying businesses that are so small that you can't feasibly hope to keep them running in their current format, either without a significant injection of cost coming from corporate overheads, or that in reality you'll buy it and it will disappear. So we very rarely buy suboptimal businesses. We always look at the economics. Economics drive decision making because ultimately you want to make sure you get a return. And those economics fall into some very simple understanding. Is there a market for this product? And is there enough space in that market for the product to grow significantly so that you can get a sustainable return? Second to that, do we like the people that we're going to have to work with? I mean, I know it sounds like a very basic thing, but it's super important. If you feel like the ethics of the business are not aligned to your ethics, it's not a business that you want to get involved with. So there are a number of very fundamental planks when you're acquiring a business. It starts always with the economics. If the economics don't make sense, it could be the nicest business you've ever seen from a personality and culture perspective, but you're not going to acquire it because the numbers are just not going to work. So you start there, you make sure that it fits with your vision of the market and where you think the market can move. And then you have to find somebody who's willing to sell for you, not just that they'd like to sell, Andrew, but the price that you're prepared to pay for it is, I always think of it, you're working well if it's a little bit uncomfortable for both sides. So I'm paying a little bit more than I want to pay, and you're receiving a little bit less than you would like to get. If you get to that perfect place, that's when you push on with a deal.
Okay, so what sort of things anything else that would just put you off?
I think fundamentally the things that, but first and foremost, if a business isn't making any money, that's a big red flag. If the business isn't growing at all, or is stagnating, or even worse, is getting smaller, these are things that we'd immediately put a red cross against them, so they're not for us. So I think fundamentally you start there. You start and say, is this the right business economically? And then you say to yourself, when I look inside the economics, does the business make sense to me? How the business is winning work? Is one thing that we see sometimes is there's one very large customer within the business. It's taking up 50, 60, 70% of revenue, and you're sitting on a shorter term contract. So that would be a big no as well. So there's a number of things you look at. Often you don't get much beyond, you can tell, I've been doing this for quite some time. So there's an element of instinct when you come across a business as to whether or not you feel that you could add value to that business. Remember, ultimately, the criteria is really about, can I buy this business? So having acquired AMBid, we'd like to think that AMBid in 2-3 years' time will be 3 or maybe even 4 times bigger than it is today. That's our ambition for the business. And you have to ask yourself, is that reasonable? And does the infrastructure allow for that in the context of where we're at? And we felt very comfortable with that with AMBid. We saw 15 others, Andrew, that we didn't feel as confident about. So there are some things that would be very important to me economically.
Okay. Now, what would you say to the staff and also the clients of AMBid? I know some of them are going to be watching today, or they're going to view the replay later. They might be wondering, things that they liked, what is going to change?
The good news is that our plan is not to change very much at all in the first instance. We like what we see. We acquired it because we liked what we see. There will be some changes. Andrew, you've already alluded to the fact that obviously we've only got you at the moment committed to the next 12 months. So that does mean we have to make some preparations for that. Alongside that, we've got a bigger corporate entity to wrap around AMBid. And I think one thing that we will be able to do more of is support the team from a customer management and sales perspective. But operationally, we're really excited and delighted to have got you on board. And it would be, and we talk about this all the time. We talked about it for the deal. We talked about since the deal. We don't want to intervene with your style of working. We don't want to intervene with the way that you deliver your work. We can see that what we can see, and what I can say, is that the customers keep coming back time and time again. And we do not want to get in the way of undermining customers coming back time and time again. So actually, I suspect on a day-to-day basis, some of the things that will change for customers will be around the edges. Maybe the way we invoice, maybe some of the interactions you have with some of our salespeople perhaps will change slightly. But operationally, it will be very much business as usual, in the same way that we are committed to business as usual for our HealthBid organisation as well. So effectively, I think the key difference will be that we're able to invest more into the corporate infrastructure of the business to allow us to grow a little bit quicker.
Okay, and for staff, I mean, presumably being part of a bigger bidding group, particularly one with overseas aspirations, presumably there should be lots of development opportunities for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the message that we try to give to staff is that this is being part of this bigger group will give everybody an opportunity to do new things, whether it be working in new sectors, whether it be promotion up into more senior roles within the business. If we are consistent with our delivery, which we hope we can be, and we've got a lot of experience of doing that, the business will grow. And that means that for our staff, and we always tend to look after our own staff first, we don't tend to bring in a lot of external staff in the first instance. We like to grow from within. It means that everybody gets the opportunity to do new things. And I think we're already feeling a little bit that already with some of the staff, that they're getting the opportunity to try new things. You alluded to the fact that yourself and another member of our team, Jeanette, have been working on one of our healthcare bids. And I think that's really important to us, that we'll see that consistently happening.
Okay. Now, you mentioned AI briefly earlier on in the interview, but there is, a lot of AI out there, such as ChatGPT. It could be seen that some of it is a potential threat to more traditional bid writing. So what are your thoughts more generally on things like that and bidding tech?
So I think you have to embrace it. I absolutely do. I'm because I come back from a technology and digital background. I firmly believe that we will need to move towards a hybrid model where we do use some of these tools to help us generate some low-level activity, but we will never lose the fact that high-quality bidding will require the input of a person and a group of people to create sales messages, make it really bespoke and dovetail to particular commissioners. But I do believe very strongly that we will see over a period of the next 12, 24, 36 months, the need for software tools that are utilizing things like ChatGPT, but there are many others out there now that you can utilize to help manage, particularly for small, but particularly for organizations who are doing SQs and they're doing less complex bids. I think there's an opening there and an opportunity for a business like ours to fill that space by providing digital solutions alongside ContractWise that will help customers take the first step of creating that bid. That's not to say that's the total bid, because I don't believe that's ever going to get to that. I think we'll still require a significant input, particularly as bids scale. One thing I think commissioners will eventually become savvy to is they wouldn't expect all the bids to look the same because they've all used the same AI tool to get there. So there is still going to be an absolute need for professionals like the one we have in this business. But I think we would believe, and I'll give you a very quick just sort of example. My previous background was working in transport and logistics for 365, and we use Google Maps as our mapping tool. We wouldn't have built our own mapping tool. It wouldn't have made any sense. And I think AI potentially has, that is how it becomes. It's an assist to the process, not the process itself. It's embedded into your software. It isn't the software, it isn't the be all and end all. You don't run a logistics operation purely on the basis of Google Maps. You build things around Google Maps to allow you to do it well. And there are lots of nuances that have to be added in there. And I think the same will happen with AI. There's a long time to go, but these things can move quite quickly. And I think our job as a digital part of the business is to be agile and thinking about that and thinking about how we can maybe take some of the complexity, simplify it, and then provide it to customers as a supporting tool to their bid teams.
Yeah, I would echo everything you've said. I think it'd be funny if we moved to a world that bids, like bid questions were created by AI. They were then written, by AI and then marked by AI as well. It sounds a bit scary if it was to be just as heavily concentrated as that. So here's my take. I believe exactly what you've said, Brendan, that the best results are going to be combining technology with the specialist niche expertise that experienced bid professionals can have. But I think from a procurement perspective, I think we're going to see more of the in-person presentations happening as well, because they're going to want to make sure that they can meet the people who've made the statements in the written bid, and that the people have got the answers, that they're able to give the answers as well. So I think presentation skills and presentations more generally will also be a fruitful market for bid professional organisations like Bidding Limited to offer services in. Now, last question of our interview. We're only 11 days in since the transition and the acquisition. How are you finding the transition process?
We were having a brief chat prior to starting this, weren't we, Andrew? And I think it's going really, really well. I'm delighted with the openness of your team. They've been really open to the team that we have in Bidding Limited, the corporate team, as well as the team in HealthBid. I am, these things always feel slightly uncomfortable to start with, and we need everyone to get used to everybody. And Mike Pearson, who's the group group operating officer, he's in Edinburgh today with the team, with your team, meeting them and just getting to know people. And I think I couldn't be happier with what's happened so far. And I know some of the things that we do, your team have embraced. We use Slack a lot in our business, and we've just introduced your team to Slack as part of the communication process, and that's gone well. So I think culturally, we seem to be going great. We're busy, and that's always nice. When you buy a business, you don't want it to drop off a cliff, do you, on the day one that you bought it. So things are going well there. We've had a good day today, sales-wise. So, I'm delighted about that. it feels, touch wood, very positive. We feel like we've made good strides very quickly, and the teams are working well together. I haven't yet seen or heard of any friction. So I think we couldn't be happier, really, that it's going as well as it is.
Yeah, I would echo that as well. And you know what? I think the understanding of kind of change management and the formation of teams and these 4 stages that you go through, you know, the forming, the storming, the norming and performing. I think we're moving through these stages remarkably quickly. And if ever I think, oh, they're doing something that's a bit different to how we do it, well, what I'm doing is I'm embracing it positively and thinking, okay, they've got a different approach and it's probably going to be better. And so let's just go with it. Let's lean into it. And even if it's not, do you know what? They'll find out and we might go back to the way we did something before. But I think overall, there was such a lot of alignment anyway, and such a careful process, you know, going through over the last few months, that it's felt like some of the stages of the team formation almost happened even prior to the 30th of June. But obviously things are motoring on now as well. So maybe have you back in a few months, Brendan, and we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to.
Thank you very much.